Hi, my name is Ev and welcome to Buddy is in Charge. Before the railway, this used to be called Hag's Lane, and we're going to find little remnants of that. Now, I think I have found a photograph of it, and I will put it in here just to show you what it used to look like. Down here on the left-hand side, where the roadway is now, used to be a row of small cottages or shops, long forgotten now. This is now Hag's Lane. And this is the Usher Monument. It has been moved. It used to be further out in the middle of the road, but there where the heather is, that used to be for horses. The lower one was for dogs and the middle one was for people, and that's obviously where the water spout used to be. So this is the Slang River. It starts up in the Dublin Mountains near Chicknock and it flows down to join the Dodder. An old water pump, just believe is more or less in the same place that it's always been. And then behind that is the Carnegie Library. And I'll put in a date in the comments below as to when that was built. Part of a great community hall, place for concerts over the years. So this graveyard is called St. Nahis, and it's a very ancient place. Certainly it dates back a long way, and obviously the graveyard is actually quite old too. But it's a very interesting little place, so we'll have a little wander around here. So we've now left Dundrum and now we're heading to Churchtown, and this is where we're going. For many people that pass by here every day, either on the Lewis or in cars, don't realise how close history is. So, it stands on the original site of Dundrum Parish Church, and a church was built here, most likely on ruins of a still older building, and would have been of wood. There is the thought that there has been a monastery here since around about 600 AD, or now as they call it, Common Era CE. The current building was built in the 1700s, so this was consecrated in 1760. And this little church is very interesting because it has the font which the Duke of Wellington was actually baptised in. Now, not actually, he wasn't baptised in this particular church. I know it's locked, so we can't go in. But it was, he was baptised in St. Kevin's Church in Dublin City. And with that was that when it closed, parts of the building were, and I suppose the innards of the building were divided out to various different parishes. So this building has got the font of the Duke of Wellington, where he was baptised. So in this little graveyard there are apparently 10,000 people buried here over the years. Now don't forget, it goes back to kind of like 600 AD, so it's bones upon bones upon bones. But it's a very interesting little churchyard because it was consecrated before the Reformation, so all religions are buried here, certainly Christian burials of all different types of creed. So there are Roman Catholic and Protestant burials here, and it still happens. The only thing is you have to be a member of the community of Dundrum So something else that's really of interest is that many people don't realise that there were two ladies who lived in this vicinity. This is their grave, and they were the sisters of the poet William Butler Yeats and the artist Jack Butler Yeats, and these are Elizabeth and Mary. And these two ladies are incredibly important for Irish history, because one of them was one of the first people who really went into printing presses, and the other lady went into embroidery. And their works, the embroidery works, are actually still seen in St. Nahi's Church. So on we go a little bit more, because I have some more interesting graves on the other side of this little graveyard. So a number of years ago, there was a lot of erosion in this part of the graveyard. I wanted to show you this particular grave. So this is basically James Burke, and he was killed in Croke Park during the what we call Bloody Sunday. So this is where he is buried. So we recently saw the Usher monument, and this is where the Ushers are buried. Don't know whether you can see it very clearly, but it is there. Beautiful cross. Another very grand place of rest. This is Mary O'Brien and Michael O'Brien. And various other members of the family. So looking at that requiescat in pace means that they would have been Roman Catholic burial. And beside that we have Sergeant Cabinet of the Royal Air Force, 23rd of September 1944, aged 24. He actually died, not actually in war, but apparently he was at home, and he actually was killed in a cycling accident, from what I remember. So if you have a few moments in your life, and if you are in the Churchtown area or in the Dundrum area, it might not be a bad idea to come down and have a look around this lovely little graveyard. It does actually have a little podcast that you can follow around. We're now going to take our leave of this lovely graveyard, and we are going to go on and we're going to try and see if we can find a morgue. So now crossing the William Dargan Bridge, and this will bring me up to Dundrum Station, Lewis Station. Before we do that, we'll have a look at this. And then we're going to look over the edge to where we've just been, in St. Nahi's. So St. Nahi was apparently a student of St. Kevin of Glendalough fame, and he set up his own monastery, obviously on a hillside, with the River Slang just below. So the River Slang goes underneath there, so it's basically right underneath it, and it gets culverted in many different areas as it goes down towards the Dodder. But it's important to note that there are many bodies in there, and that's uphill of a river. And what happens is when that body breaks down, that's how things get leached through the soil and then into the river system. And of course, people will start drinking that foul water. So I'm saying that now because where we're going to next is going to be where a lot of those people ended up. So this bridge was built in the early 2000s. I believe the Lewis started 2004. And this magnificent structure had to be built before that. So we're going to get on to the next Lewis and head on to Ballia Namwillan, or Milltown. Leaving the Milltown station, you can see the old railway walls along here. These would have been original, going back to the 1800s. So the railway, I believe, the Harcourt Street line was in operation between 1858 and 1967-68 before it was closed. But the railway bed remained intact. So when they decided on getting a new tram system in, they just used a straight line. So we're now heading down into the Dodder Valley, and we are going to head towards the morgue, although it's not a morgue anymore. And that, my friends, is, or was, a morgue. It is now the Dropping Well pub, where I'm going to have a nice bowl of soup and without Buddy, and it's a cold day. That lunch in the Dropping Well was just so delicious. So a little bit of history about the Dropping Well. So it was on the site of an old sawmill owned by the man called Classen, and in 1845 was the main part of the Irish famine on Gorta Moor, the Great Hunger. And in those days, people would be coming down from the mountains using rivers as a guide to bring them towards towns and cities, and the Dodder was no different. And what happened in this area was that a lot of people died from dropsy fever, from dysentery and typhus, and there was a lot of people who passed and who perished along these banks. And so the gentleman Classen decided he was going to make this area here, specifically the pub, into a morgue. And this was in 1847. So that was when he first became a licensed place, and that's where he would keep the corpses of those who had perished, was actually inside of the pub, or what is now the pub. So we're just walking up here towards the banks now. We're going up to a weir, and this is a weir that would have once powered the wheels of Classen's mill. And across the way there you can see somebody playing golf, because this is very close to, I think it's Milltown Golf Club. So we shall head along here, and I'll talk to you now in a few minutes. Obviously this river here is our friend the Dodder, which we have met many times on our rambles. So I'm going to head to the weir. You can also see here how high the Dodder can get. This is obviously after some flood water. There's a duck sitting quietly, but I want to show you something else as well, because it's a very interesting little, well, not little statue in the middle of the Dodder, and it is of a rhino. So that's where we're going to go next. There's the rhino, a bit battered from recent storms. So we're going to go under this bridge, which is Classen's Bridge, and it was originally built by the sawmill owner, and it has been replaced in recent years due to obviously wear and tear. So we're going to head underneath this, and then we're going to have a look at an old laundry and the remnants of that. Also the Nine Arches Bridge. So this is the Nine Arches Bridge, and this was part of the Harker Street to Bray line and is now used by the Lewis Green Line. And this was engineered by people around William Dargan and still stands today, and has become a great access for commuters into and out of Dublin. So we're going to talk a bit more about this chimney now in a moment. So I'm actually standing underneath the Nine Arches here. This is the Shamnagary laundry chimney and the last of the buildings that are left. So this was a commercial laundry as opposed to ones which people would have may have heard of, which would be the Magdalene laundries, which were not run particularly well. This was a commercial one, so it was actually, the staff were treated well. And this is where the Slang River joins the Dodder. Remnants of another weir, and again, industry of one of the many mills that used to be along this river. This is the original bridge that crossed the Dodder. It is called the Packhorse Bridge. It's now pedestrianised. Little place for safety for passing carts and horses. And this replaced the ford. And the ford used to be underneath that bridge there, which is the one which traffic now flows over. So we're going to head down here, and then we're going to retrace the steps back to Milltown Lewis stop, and then head up along the Green Line back home. So hopefully you've enjoyed this little trip around parts of Dundrum, parts of Churchtown, and now in Milltown. Those are some of the old mill cottages. So thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you again soon. Bye.